In this edition of In Focus, we're going to talk about immigration in Russia. We will follow two immigrants and visit their homes, they work and meet their families to see a difference with which some migrants in Moscow live. We will explore difficulties that some immigrants face in Russia in everyday life and with the authorities. We will find out what benefits they bring to Russia as well. Moscow, the largest city in Europe. It has a population of at least 12 million people. It is the biggest financial and trade center in Russia and offers the most lucrative opportunities. Moscow boasts the second biggest number of billionaires in the world, only a few behind New York. The city attracts millions of people who arrive here in search of a better life. Wannabe Muscovites come from many regions of the Russian Federation. Around 2 million foreigners come to Russia in search of better job prospects every year. Many come from Russia's neighboring countries, such as Tajikistan, Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan. These countries have a special visa waiver agreement with Russia.
Москва всегда в советские времена у советских людей ассоциировалась как...
If we look at the question deeply, Moscow has always been associated with the protector of rights of all Soviet people, and many people see it as a Soviet empire, a protector. They witness a different picture when they come here. There are arrangements between Russia and Tajikistan. That's why so many people from neighboring countries choose to come to Russia.
Hushed Avduvasidov is a 37-year-old surgeon who came to Moscow in 2004 with his wife Manzura. They left their hometown of Kujan in Tajikistan and came to Moscow so that Hushed could study on a postgraduate course at the Russian International Academy. Hushed is a trained surgeon and had big ambitions to succeed in his chosen profession.
Хотел поступить или в Москву, или тогда еще был Ленинград.
I've always wanted to study in Moscow or St. Petersburg. After university, I was invited to work in Moscow for a Tajik firm as a medical expert. But after a few months, I decided it wasn't for me, and I moved to Tyumen to work as a doctor. I gained a lot of experience there, but Moscow was always in my heart, and I wanted to have a career there. In 2004, I got a place to study on a postgraduate course, so I took it and stayed in Moscow ever since then.
Hushed studied for 3 years and was teaching at the same time to support his family. They were living in student halls for many years because it was the only affordable option available to them. They had a baby boy and the family needed to move to proper accommodation. It wasn't until 2008 when the family was able to move. Hushed got a job as a surgeon at one of Moscow's state hospitals. This allowed him to buy their first family home.
В государственных учреждениях платят зарплата очень маленькая, честно я вам скажу.
Russian state doctor's salary is small, I'll be honest with you. So I have to work as a diagnostic medical sonographer as well. I also teach at a university, so I am working on 3 jobs, trying to do something here and there. I leave home early in the morning and come back late in the evening. At least I have the weekend to spend time with my family.
But hard work doesn't always pay off. And not everybody finds what they came for in Moscow. Shafahuja Babosherov and his wife came to Russia in 2000. They have 5 children, 3 girls and 2 boys. Shafahuja is also a doctor. He's a general practitioner who visits his patients at their homes. Shafahuja is from Tajikistan and he will be turning 50 later this year. He and his large family live at this rundown hostel. With a total income of under $2,000 a month, as a state doctor in Russia, they cannot afford to live anywhere else.
Тогда детей я привез сюда, так как там, где я прописан был и жил.
Since 2006, my family lived in the Moscow region. They lived there for a year. We had a big garden and we used to grow our own vegetables. It was hard for me to travel back and forth to work. I thought maybe to take them back to Tajikistan, My friend suggested I ask local authorities for accommodation. They looked at my application, but they said there was nothing. I asked for anything. They gave us this room. I cleaned and decorated it to give it a better look. Since 2006 we are here. We have male and female rooms. There is no personal life for me and my wife.
So this family of 7 people have to share one bathroom and one toilet with at least 20 other flats. They have to do all their washing and cleaning here. They do not have running hot water, so they have to boil it every morning to have a bath. Their neighbors come and go on a regular basis, and they are the only family who stayed here for this long.
Many times I thought of taking them back to Tajikistan, but for me to take one child on a plane and come back to Moscow would cost me almost $1,000. That's 27,000 rubles. To take back 6 people would cost me 6 months of my then salary.
As a large family, they are entitled to state housing benefits, especially as Shafahuja has Russian citizenship. But his pleas for help have been ignored for years. Shafahuja has been to many government offices asking for help with his problem, asking for decent accommodation for his family. He even wrote a letter to the Russian president. But now the authorities want to force him, his wife and 5 of their children out of this hostel. They say the family is staying here illegally.
I am a citizen. My children are Russian citizens. I wrote a letter asking for better accommodation. The authorities told me we live here illegally and have to leave. I wrote to so many people for help, but nobody's listening. I even wrote to Putin, but they tell me that I live here illegally and I created this problem. I wrote to so many people.
When foreigners come to Russia, they hope for a better life for them and their families. But when they arrive, many find that the reality is far from their expectations. Moscow may look attractive to many people on surface, but not everybody is able to make their dreams come true here. Behind all the glitz and glamour of Moscow, its expensive restaurants, cafes and boutiques, lies a murky world of immigrants and those living below the poverty line. Renting an apartment or even a room costs much more than a minimum wage in Russia. And as a result, many migrants end up having to live in unsuitable conditions.
Only about 10% of those who come to Moscow find their dreams come true. Many migrants want to have a decent life and are looking for work opportunities. They do want to work and earn a decent living. Some even ask if they can serve in the Russian army. I ask them why, and they say to get a Russian citizenship.
Russian citizenship is a highly sought-after prize for many migrants. It is virtually impossible to find legal work without Russian citizenship in Moscow, even for manual or low-paid work. It certainly opens a lot of doors for those who want to become successful Muscovites. Hushet Abduvasidov encountered many problems on his way to the Russian capital.
Приехал сюда, получил паспорт российский, получил загранпаспорт, жил.
Before moving to Russia for the first time, I received Russian citizenship. I had a Russian passport and I was working and got my mortgage with this passport. In 2007, I got a call from the passport office in Tyumen region. They told me I had to give up my passport as my citizenship was fake. I panicked. I didn't know what to do.
For 2 years, Hushet didn't know what was the best thing to do. He sought help from various organizations and lawyers. But the lawyers told him that everything was fine, that he could file a court case and they would help him. He soon realized that he wasn't the only one who ended up in such circumstances. It was much easier for foreigners to get Russian citizenship prior to 2009. The rules were more relaxed back then. Anybody from the former Soviet Union who on the 1st of July 2002 had registration or a permission to stay in Russia automatically qualified for citizenship. But Russian legislation doesn't have such allowances anymore.
Я не знал, что делать. Я написал тогда письмо Путину. Нет, извиняюсь, не Путину.
I didn't know what else to do, so I wrote to the then president, Dmitry Medvedev. In a long letter, I explained my problem, explained that I have lived in Moscow for a long time, that I was working in Russia and teaching Russian students. I also wrote to the head of the Russian Federal Migration Service. Luckily, these letters helped me, and based on the fact that I had my registration prior to 2002, I received my Russian citizenship once again. This time, it was entirely legal.
Even the most successful migrants do not find Moscow as welcoming as it seemed at first. Some people come across problems such as social acceptance. There are an estimated 12 million people living in Moscow at the moment. Around 3 million of them are based in Moscow temporarily, either for work or study, including those who are not registered or even illegal. And this number is growing every year, especially in migrants coming from neighboring countries. And the mixed attitudes towards them are also growing. According to some opinion polls, 30% of Muscovites consider growth in migration a negative trend. Some of these people believe that migrants pose a terrorism threat, do not respect their traditions, or simply steal their jobs. However, there are plenty of those with warmer attitudes.
Здесь иногда некоторые ведут себя, я говорю, ей-богу, фашист так не ведет себя, как они ведут.
I look around and I see so many people, good and bad. Some people treat us so cruelly, especially among the authorities. It is their job to help us, but they say we have no time. They talk to me like I am some kind of beggar, but it is their job to help me.
Some migrants like Hushed say that generally they do not feel negative attitude towards them. Although it doesn't go without a few incidents when the color of the skin is used as a motive for an insult.
Ну, в жизни бывало, когда на улице иногда бывает, что там, ну...
I don't really notice any negative attitude towards me. Sure, there are some people who do, but the majority is normal. I have never felt a foreigner or not one of us. Nobody has shown me this openly anyway. But I have seen discrimination against me for sure. Some old woman on a bus said, "Go home, you foreigner." But I don't pay any attention to such people. Even my old colleague once said, "But you're black." I said to her, "What difference does it make?"
Most immigrants adapt well, even though many do feel a certain culture shock. Most foreign migrants speak Russian. Since the end of last year, the law makes it obligatory for any foreigner who works with people in Russia to pass a Russian language test. And that's one of many requirements that a migrant has to pass.
Для граждан Таджикистана сейчас, как приехал сюда...
Foreigners from countries like Tajikistan have to register with migration services within 15 days of arrival. Then they can stay in Russia legally for 3 months. After that, they need to either get a work permit or leave. If they can get a work permit, they can work. Since January this year, they also have to leave their fingerprints, and since December last year, they also have to pass a Russian language certificate if they interact with people.
However, fulfilling this Russian language requirement is difficult because there are no special schools for foreigners. Some societies provide Russian language lessons for their fellow countrymen, but they are not official centers. Such schools are few in Moscow, or else migrants have to rely on their own resources. The process of application for a work permit looks simple on paper. However, some technical issues pose difficulties. Moreover, long queues and waiting times make migrants use middlemen. Direct application for a migration service costs about $70 but using a third party costs $700 or more. It is easier to use middlemen, and this service is high in demand, but they are operating illegally. Sometimes a migrant ends up with fake paperwork provided by a third party. Having to pay extra cash puts further financial burden on a migrant wishing to get a work permit. But even before being able to apply for a work permit, he or she has to find a job. And that proves to be the hardest in this day Moscow.
Врачом устроиться в больницу очень тяжело. Почему? Потому что в Москве сейчас все забито.
It's hard to find a job as a doctor. There are hardly any jobs in Moscow now, especially as a surgeon. All vacancies are taken and there are hardly any vacancies going around. It is exceptionally difficult to find a good job at a Moscow hospital. When I was studying, I met a person who is now my head doctor. He helped me find my current job. It's very difficult to find work without personal contacts.
And this lack of work leads one to low-paid menial jobs for such people. Many end up with labouring at building sites, sweeping the streets, or just picking up an occasional job for money. This can be anything from lifting heavy furniture to disposing of waste and washing the pots in restaurants and cafes.
Не столько жалуются, сколько на самом деле проблемы, изначальные проблемы это...
Migrants who've come to Moscow are facing many problems. The main and biggest problems are lack of decent accommodation and lack of jobs. There is also a lack of mechanism for legalization of your status. It is hard to get a registration, hard to obtain work permit, which is done mainly through middlemen. Immigrants are tackling important predicaments here.
Illegal immigration has become one of the main issues for Moscow. Not a day goes by without news of illegal immigrants being busted or arrested. Police carry out regular raids on markets and building sites, arresting hundreds of those without legal documents. Many of these people are from Russia's neighboring countries, but many come from as far as Vietnam.
По официальным данным, почти там около миллиона человек приезжает в Россию.
According to official data, around 1 million people come to the Russian Federation in total. Around 200,000 people come to Moscow. But all these figures are approximate. According to the official figure, say during past 6 months, 4,000 people from Tajikistan have been officially registered in Moscow. It is hard to put a figure on the number of people living here illegally.
Moscow authorities have been working hard on catching illegal immigrants during the summer. However, the city doesn't have adequate facilities to accommodate them, nor adequate procedures to deport them. One such makeshift facility just outside Moscow became a scandal when details about illegal immigrants' conditions were revealed. Hundreds of men and women were forced to stay in tents for several weeks. Gulyanovo facility has since been closed.
The only center for illegal immigration in Moscow was inadequate in terms of how many people it could lodge and its general condition. We are ashamed of this center. We are working on building a new center as soon as possible. Moscow urgently needs one.
In an attempt to control migration, the Federal Migration Service for Moscow is considering several options. One of them is controlling legal migration, and it involves 3 steps. First, a vacancy will be advertised in Moscow for a month. If it isn't filled by Muscovites, Russian citizens from other regions may apply for this vacancy. And if it isn't filled in 2 months, and if the salary is adequate, then this vacancy can be offered to a foreign citizen. Other proposed measures to combat illegal migration include setting up monitoring posts at train stations. Imposing heavier fines for violating migration rules is also used.
In Moscow and the suburbs, as well as St. Petersburg and Leningrad region, we have increased fines for violators. The fine is now up to $250. For civil servants, it is from $1,200 to $2,500, and for legal entities, which is the most relevant, is from $12,500 to $32,000. We understand that it is our Russian citizens, our employers, who are creating conditions which lead to employment of foreign labor force.
Russian employers are responsible for a rise in migration because they often pay low salaries, which Muscovites find unacceptable. However, foreign labor force, especially those who come from poor countries, do not shy away from low salaries. For some migrants, even a below minimum wage is still considered good money, and they work hard for the employer who is eager to pay such low wage. According to some estimates, billions of US dollars are transferred to Russia's South Asia neighboring countries every month from migrants working in Russia. Crime also goes hand in hand with illegal immigration. According to police sources, half of crimes in Moscow are committed by non-residents. 22% of these crimes are committed by foreigners, from which about a quarter come from South Asia. Most crimes committed by foreigners are theft and robberies. There are some ethnic and multi-ethnic groups operating in Moscow known to the police, and crime rates among migrants are growing, including for grievous crimes as well as petty theft. To combat crime among migrants, Russian authorities have brought in new rules which prohibit entry back to Russia for a migrant who's been convicted of any crime, either criminal or administrative. Any migrant who commits a crime on more than one occasion will not be allowed to return to Russia for 3 years. While migration might cause a headache to the authorities with all its problems, it brings certain benefits to the country. Migration has a positive impact on the economy and brings in specialists with skills, knowledge and experience that may be hard to find in certain areas. And migrants who do less skilled jobs do not shy away from doing dirty work that some local people might be unwilling to do. In the past decade, Moscow has become a truly international and multicultural city. It is a common sight to see foreigners in the country, which only a few decades ago was closed off behind the Iron Curtain. Moscow accommodates people of many cultures and religions. There are many churches, mosques and synagogues and other places of worship. Many foreign holidays and traditional celebrations are observed and marked in Moscow, and this makes the city easy to adapt to and become a new home for many foreigners.
Люди с образованием, да, так называемая интеллигенция с высшим образованием.
People who are educated, so-called intellectuals, doctors, engineers, they find it easy to integrate into the Russian society. When they start work, they adapt quickly. But when cheap labor immigrants come here, they tend to stay in their enclaves, in building sites and markets. They feel safe in their groups. They hardly come into contact with the locals.
Many migrants are left disappointed when they come to Russia and see the reality. They often go back home empty-handed or they move on to other countries. But those who manage to make a success of their move to Russia end up staying for a long time. Many apply for Russian citizenship after 5 years. Many start families, careers or businesses.
Квартиру купили, сын есть, ну, скорее всего, да.
We have bought the flat and our son is growing up, so we will most likely stay in Moscow. Political and social situation in Tajikistan is hard, so I wouldn't want to go back. People are surviving there. Ordinary people have no money and no opportunities to make money. Last time I was there was 7 years ago, and they even rationed electricity and central heating. Doctors' salaries are maximum $20 to $30 per month. I can't give up what I have created here in Moscow. It would be too hard to give it up.
Pushet doesn't regret a thing. He's keen to continue developing his medical career, and as he is already heading a department at a hospital, it might not be too long until he climbs further up the ladder. As for Shahafuja and his large family, their future is not very clear. Pending the decision from the authorities, they are not sure how much longer they will be able to stay in their hostel. But they don't want to leave Moscow, especially as their older daughters are now at a university. Shafahuja would even file a complaint to the European Union if he has to.
Еще сидим и надеемся на хорошего.
I hope for the best. Hope dies last, so we are hoping for the better. I'm a Russian citizen at least, but people without citizenship find it even harder. I had such a good opinion of Soviet Union and Russia, but it has failed me. I don't even have an opportunity to create a good life in Russia. There is plenty of good land in Russia. I would be proud to build on it, to have a farm of some kind, to have a normal life.
Perhaps things might change for him and he will finally get the life he has always dreamt of. The Russian government is showing favorable signs towards legal migration. Easier procedures, less queues and more support are being promised. But how long it will take for the Russian government to fulfill promises remains to be seen.